What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. On this channel, everybody, I try to give you guys a six-figure MBA level worth of investing and financial knowledge for free here on YouTube. And working in corporate America has its place. And I also truly believe, however, that entrepreneurs are truly the ones who make the world go round. Me and you, we talked a little bit earlier, but first, please introduce yourself to my audience. Who are you?
Existential question. Who are you? Allen Thompson. I just recently transitioned from a 9-to-5er to a full-time entrepreneur. Grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I was raised by, a single mom, 3 kids, my older brother, my younger sister. Mom was in the military. She was a Navy recruiter, so every time friends came over, she was trying to get them signed up to join the Navy. But Dad was in the Army, so we always knew like military service was where we were headed. Books were number one in our household. Academics was number one, so we studied hard. And then I ended up going to West Point. And then out to the Army, and then I ended up in corporate America, grinding on that 9-to-5. So I did that for a while, and then started a business for about 2 years. I had no idea what I was doing. Came out, quit the workforce, jumped into it. That thing lasted about 2 years before I had to go back into corporate America, but I ended up going to work for a small company where I met 2 mentors who really taught me how to start a business, build a business, run a business. I was with that company for 12 years, and we built it from $6 million in revenue to they'll probably do 40 this year.
Nice.
Did some acquisitions with them. We eventually got acquired, so got to participate in all that, see how private equity plays a part in acquisitions. And then finally stacked enough money to get that nest egg and jump back into entrepreneurship full time. So that's where I'm at right now.
Nice. You said a mouthful, man. From one military kid to another. My mom was in the military, was U.S. Army. She was a drill sergeant 23 years. My father was human resources for 22 years. So I definitely, I think you know where I'm about to go with this. You definitely saw your parents drop and give me 50. You definitely
all that.
You definitely saw your parents telling you basically get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You about to go work out with us. So yeah.
All that. We had a curfew. Our curfew was however long it took us to walk from the bus stop to the house, and it better not take that long. That's how tight that's how tight it was at the Thompson household. But she just didn't want us to get in, running with the wrong people, in trouble, being a statistic and all that. So.
Yeah, I worked in Chicago for a little bit. I went to like 1 or 2 parties in East St. Louis. Yeah, St. Louis is one of the. I know East St. Louis and St. is different, but like St. Louis and East St. Louis, they're the kind of city where you can get caught up very quickly without even realizing it. So yeah, sure. Definitely. Let's back up a little bit. Military and everything. I almost joined the military actually twice. I have a whole journey about at the end of the day, both times my father talked me out of it literally at the last second. At one point, I almost walked out of corporate America to join the military. But let's back up military. How long were you in for, Alan?
So I was in active duty for 5 years, and that took me to Germany, and then for a couple of years in Alabama. Then I got out. And then I ended up doing a stint in the reserves to go support a reserve unit that got activated, and then I had to go with them overseas, got deployed with them. But all total, probably 9 years service.
Got you. And did you use the military for your GI Bill, or did you kind of pay for college out of pocket? I guess this is a financial channel, so.
So the way West Point works is they pay for your school. Like if you go there, then your tuition's covered. So I didn't have any, loans or anything coming out of West Point. So I was lucky in that regard.
Got you. How did being a military guy and everything? How did being U.S. military? How did that help you as an entrepreneur, and also first and foremost in corporate America? How did that benefit you? I would say.
I would say the biggest thing, I mean, obviously the discipline part. I mean, people talk about, you got to be disciplined, but the question is like, how do you learn it? How do you where do you learn discipline? I always laugh because, people look at like David Goggins or Jocko.
Yeah.
And they're so disciplined, et cetera, et cetera. But someone's got to teach you those skills, right? To be able to, show up, be on time, be ready, prepare. All those things I learned in the Army. And to be quite frank, I don't unless your parents teach it to you, I don't know how you or where you learn from out here in the, civilian world. But yeah, it's, I would say by far the number one thing that the military taught me that was translatable is discipline. You got to have it. You got to use it. You're going to need it. So yeah.
Sure. Let me ask you this. I've as a corporate America gentleman, the guys that started businesses, I've always gotten along extremely well with guys that played sports and with people that were former U.S. military. Yeah. And looking back on, I understand the sports angle because at the end of the day, if you play basketball, particularly play like basketball or football or baseball, team sport, you won't always be the best guy. You won't always be the most talented guy, but you have to figure out a way to get on that field, and B, you got to get on that court, and B, you got to figure out a way to contribute for the team to win. And I find that skill set has worked very well with me as an entrepreneur as well as also as a corporate, because I had to realize, okay, how can I basically make this project finish on time and at the schedule? How can I essentially work with this company to take my skill set as a mechanical engineer and basically make it work? So in regards to that, I've always kind of noticed I've also got along with military guys. Do you think to some extent in the military they teach you how to get along with people who I guess don't look like you and did not grow up like you? Do you think that's kind of benefited you? I would say.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you got people that you don't like, but you still got to get, accomplish the mission. And you make a great point. Problem solving is definitely a skill that you pick up in both sports and the military. So that you made a great point there. But yeah, I mean, you really do get introduced to people from all walks of life, from the city, from the country, black, white, every color under the sun, men and women working together. All of that, at least from my experience in the military, was part of, if you want to be successful, you got to figure out how to work with a lot of people with a lot of opinions and a lot of backgrounds, and all focused on a common goal. So yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a great point.
You said you got deployed Iraq or Afghanistan, or was it somewhere else?
It was Iraq.
All right, got you. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the name Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, David Goggins, Remy Adeleke, all those dudes. I mean, it's very if I'm an audience, if you're not familiar with who those guys are, like just kind of Google David Goggins. I'll say start with him. Book Hurt Me. If you think you've had a bad life, just read that man's book. All right, like literally, if you think, and once again, I mean, I 4 murder capitals. I saw gangbangers, drive-bys, recruited to join gangs, all that stuff. If you think you've had a hard life, Google David Goggins' childhood and Google some of the stuff that guy went through before he turned 18, and you're never going to complain about how hard you think your life has been. I'm just being completely honest with you. And interesting you said it also as well about Jocko Willink, because the guy's been he was an active duty U.S. Navy SEAL, I think, for like 21 years, something like that. Anyway, the man is like almost 50 now, and he still gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
And so it's like when you start studying and following guys who live their life that and David Goggins set world records for like push-ups and pull-ups and stuff like that. When you start following people like that in your day-to-day life, it pushes you, at least it's pushed me anyway, to become that much better as a corporate America guy and that much better as an entrepreneur. So it's pretty I like the fact you mentioned those guys, Alan. Definitely. Yep.
Sweet. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. You mentioned some other things I want to touch on, but I do want to talk first and foremost about your shirt, CrossFit MouseTrap.
That's right. Yeah.
Got you. You mentioned obviously you worked in corporate. I want to ask you about mentors and things like that and how they kind of pushed you. But first and foremost, I guess, when did you know, Alan, that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Because like I said, entrepreneurs to me are the lifeblood of the American version of capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like I mentioned, like it wasn't talked about in my household. Like it's not something we ever, I mean, I didn't have a single conversation about starting your own business. No one in my family did that. It was like, if you got a government job, then you made it. You know what I mean? Like, because you can count your military service towards your government service and the benefits and yada. And like, if you got a government job after your military service, you were set for life. And that was really the focus. And oddly enough, I ended up getting a job at the Pentagon. After my military service, I was doing, I did some stuff in the private sector for a while. Then I got this sweet GS-15 job, which is pretty high up there. I was like 29 when I got that job. So
I know the GS skill. That's
yeah. So I was making like six figures living in DC, single. Man, you couldn't tell me nothing, man. I was on top of the world.
Yep.
And there was a gentleman that worked there. He had been a civilian and been working at the Pentagon for years. And he had this side business where he was producing music and helping musicians and singers, get their first sort of, tapes or whatever together. And he was really the first person that showed me where entrepreneurship doesn't have a cap on your earning potential.
Yep.
He really opened my eyes to this idea that, like, you're smart, you're talented, you're young, you're doing a lot of great things, but your ability to earn money and make money is limited by, what Congress approved for this particular, job posting or whatever. So he really, he was doing well for himself on the government side. He was doing well for himself on the side gig, and he just really opened my eyes to the opportunities that were out there for me, for anybody really, to start thinking about entrepreneurship. And so that's where it started. Pretty late, I think, in life. I was like 29, 30 before I even got exposed to, the idea of me jumping out and doing my own thing. So.
Got you. And you say that's the gentleman that made you want to be, I would say, the entrepreneur and everything?
100%. Yeah.
Got you. You mentioned something as well that I also want to touch on. It wasn't necessarily work for the federal government. Like I said, for me, my parents, my dad was from that Vietnam era, so they kind of pushed me the tail end of the Vietnam era, and they kind of dissuaded my brothers and I from going to the military. Like I said, my father literally talked me out of joining the military on two separate occasions. One at 18, and then another right when I graduated with my engineering degree. So they didn't push us to they didn't push to the U.S. military, but I was taught in my household, okay, go to college, get that great degree, become an engineer, become a doctor, become a healthcare, something of that nature. Get that great job. You work for the federal government. Make sure you have that college degree prior to you go there, get there, that kind of thing. But entrepreneurship was not really talked about in my household. And I'm thinking now, I don't really remember anybody but my grandfather, now that I think about it, even mentioning starting a business. It was always for us, at least my family members that actually did want to make something of their life. It was always go to college, get that degree. Why do you think that we as African Americans don't talk more about starting a business per se?
I just probably because so many, of us, there's so few of us actually doing it. I think, parents, have to, they base everything off their experience, I think, in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases. And, my mom and dad found success, military, government, that worked for them, that worked for their aunts and uncles. And, they're speaking from, their experience. And now this is before, this is a long time ago. This is before the internet and the information age and all that. But I think that's the biggest thing. Like, everyone's not doing it. It's certainly not easy. There's a bunch of horror stories and risk associated with starting your own business that's out there. I think there's just not enough success stories for people to hear about, learn about, that you can be, a regular person working a regular 9-to-5 job and go out here and start a business. If you have an idea, if you have a discipline, if you have the ability to problem solve, you can do these things. You can go out here and be successful. I just don't think there's enough storytelling about that in our community. So.
Got you. I was interviewing a entrepreneur the other day. This brother's pulling in about $2 to $3 million a year, and he said when he started his business, his mother, who was a dentist, loaned him about, I think, $400,000 or $500,000. And I thought to myself, wow.
Must be nice.
Brother, I was like, I don't know a single individual in your circle that I could ask for dang near $500,000 to start a business. And the guy, like I said, he's pulling in $3 or $4 million a year. He's doing it consistently for like the last couple of decades. Do you think the expensive startup cost possibly of starting a business is one reason, or do you think that that's not really the case?
It certainly can be, but there's so many ways to start a business, right? There's so many ways. For that particular person, he had access to that, type of support. But you can start smaller. You can start with a smaller business, owner operator businesses. There's a ton, but there's like different loan programs that you can qualify for. So there's a lot of ways to get money, and you can always just start with, I'm gonna start my side hustle and build it to a point where it can sustain me, and then move that way. And you don't need anyone's money but your own, to do that. So.
Are you familiar with the gentleman Damon John from Shark Tank?
No. Oh well, yeah. I've seen him.
Shorter black gentleman. Yeah, he has a book called I believe the Power of Broke. And the way he pushes people to start business, it's kind of the way that I do as well, is that he says you should have an idea what your business is, and then basically literally with $0 in your bank account, start it from zero and build it up. And I personally like that because once again, I'm a finance guy. I absolutely despise debt. I'm not to the Dave Ramsey extremism as far as don't ever get debt. I don't necessarily believe that's 100% realistic in all circumstances, but I don't particularly like debt. And Damon John is a very big proponent of people need to essentially have a good business idea and then slowly from 5 to 9 p.m. after they get off work that business, start for free, and just kind of build it up and not accrue a lot of debt. So from your particular, I would say, stance, Alan, because you have a very successful business, you buy businesses and things of that nature. Do you advise a power of broke strategy where you basically build the business slowly, or do you advise finding like angel investors and then just kind of just going directly into it? What's your take on it, I guess?
I think everybody is unique. I think you need to find a path that aligns with like your values and who you are, right? Like, because both will work. There's a ton of different ways to do it. You got to find out which one works for you. Like if you don't have access to money, or you don't want to wait, and let's say, hey, I'm ready now to get started. Starting a business from scratch, from zero, in the hours after work makes a ton of sense, right? Because that fits your lifestyle, it fits where you're at in your life and your goals, and that works. For me, when I ended up buying this gym, we had the capital that we saved and said, okay, we can buy a house. We looked at buying a rental property because that's a way to build wealth. We looked at, buying a house just to live in and watching that grow, or we could buy a business and own that business outright and not owe anyone any money. And so we opted to buy that business and delay, purchasing a house in pursuit of that, that cash flow that we wanted and this lifestyle that we wanted. So I really think there's a ton of different ways for people to make their dreams reality, become rich, become financially free. It's like, you got to take a look at, this is where I'm at. This is what I would like to do. These are the options in front of me, and this one makes the most sense. So if you don't have a lot of capital or any capital, start the side hustle. No money down, you build a website and get after it. But alternatively, if you do have access to your mom's $400,000-$500,000 to hit her up for a loan,
don't get access to that.
Yeah, to start your business, and more power to you. But I was sort of in the middle. We stacked our money. And then once we had that stack of cash, we said, okay, what do we want to do? We got these different options, and buying a business just made sense for us. So
got you. How did you go? Because you said something that I find pretty dope. You said rental property versus buying a business outright. I think you're in the Orlando area, so you could buy a very nice house for $400,000 to $500,000 in Orlando. But you instead decided to put that, I'm gonna say $500,000 into buying a business. Right. Your wife, how did you guys figure out the return on investment for the business versus the house? Because with the house, generally speaking, historically, it's going to go up regardless. So what made you want to go we're going to put our money into a business that could potentially fail, yeah, or put our money into a house that we know is not going to fail, essentially?
That's a great question. I think early on, my wife and I sat down and said, what do we want our life to look like? What do we want? What do we want? What's our vision for retirement? And we sat down, we made out a pretty detailed list. And buying a house is always interesting, right? Because it's like, is it your forever home? Is it your last home? You're going to buy another house. And there's a lot of, if an opportunity arises where like, hey, do we want to move? I mean, there's just a lot of things tied into a house. But I would say for us, I think owning multiple businesses, owning multiple cash flow streams made sense to us. And, my background's in operations, her background is in sales. We thought that was a pretty powerful combination that we could take any business and make it more profitable. And so for us, we took a look at it and say, buying a house and then renting it out, not that renting is bad. It just wasn't like something that we got excited about,
Right.
This idea of like buying a business, watching it grow, cash flowing it out. We looked for an opportunity where we didn't have to work in the business. We were trying to buy something where we could work on the business and someone else was managing the day to day. And that really has worked out for us. So, again, it goes back to values, your vision that you have for yourself. Real estate is a great option to get into if it fits like, your vision for yourself and what you want to do. We just didn't want to get into the rental property or property ownership game. We were more interested in, hey, let's leverage our experience from corporate America. We both were 9-to-5ers. Like I said, I'm really good at ops. He's really good at sales. And let's leverage it into us buying his business and potentially buying more businesses after that. So that's how we kind of made that decision.
Got you. And when you bought that business, you said it was fully operational prior. So the employees were already set up. The website was already there. They already had it's a CrossFit gym. So I know you guys I do mixed martial arts. I've never done CrossFit officially, I guess. So yeah. I don't really know. I know a little bit about it, but only from a passing like hobby kind of perspective. But I know with CrossFit gyms, you guys typically have like a schedule set as far as when you're doing what, and your trainers are already lined up. So all that stuff was already in place when you bought the business, Alan?
Yeah, all that was already lined up. And it was just a great opportunity for us. And, when we took a look at it, I think we identified pretty early, like, we do this, we do that, we do these 3, 4, 5 things, and we can increase revenue here. We can increase memberships. We looked at it as a pretty easy lift to not only take what they're already doing, but expand on what they were doing. So, it was a great investment for us. Like that really worked out well for us.
Gotcha. I do have well over 1,000 subscribers. So do me a favor. I want you to do a shout out where this particular business is located. So when anybody goes, any of my subscribers in Disney World, where can they get some world-class CrossFit training at?
Yeah, they just need to stop by CrossFit MouseTrap. It's 8480 Palm Parkway. It's near SeaWorld, near the convention center. So if you're in town for a convention or just visiting the parks, Disney or SeaWorld, we're right down the street. Closest gym to the convention center in Disney and SeaWorld. So you'll easy to find.
Got you. I actually worked in Orlando for about a year and a half. I designed a couple of buildings over there. I actually met my wife in Orlando as well. It was years before we actually started talking too, just randomly. Anyway, next time I'm in Orlando, I will be next time I drop to Orlando, I will be hitting you up. I'll definitely check out the gym. If it's recent, I don't know. If it's recent, I don't know if I'll be able to train because I got an injury from a prior sports. But I'll be there when I'm in. I'll hit you up. Hopefully, I'm healed by then. So yeah.
All right. Well, take care.
For sure. I will definitely rehabbing right now. You mentioned you have a background, I believe, in ops, and your wife is in marketing. So do me a favor. Let's back up a little bit. Describe your journey from corporate America to opening your own CrossFit gym, because right now I'm working for a job I can't tell anybody about, essentially. And that particular project, I've been approached about just different GS classifications. So I know exactly what a GS 15 gets paid because they talked to me about that. So that's a very comfortable salary, particularly if you're a single man. Describe your journey from corporate America to actually owning your own business. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's kind of go a little bit deeper into that, because a lot of people, that's what they want to do.
Sure. So my corporate journey started after my time in the Army. I got out. I was a production supervisor for a company called PACCAR. They build 18-wheeler trucks. Peterbilt actually is the name of the company I work for. So they build 18-wheeler trucks. And I was just in charge of, 30 folks at the end of a production line. And we made trucks all day. And, one thing, I had a platoon sergeant tell me in the Army early in my career. He's like, if anyone offers training, you take it. whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, you take it. If there's free training and the company's willing to pay you to go learn this thing, you do that. So I mean, that was his message to me in the Army. So I did that when I was a civilian as well. They offered this Six Sigma process improvement training on how to eliminate defects in your department. So I took those classes. I did a couple of little small projects on my free time after hours. Presented 2 or 3 presentations, and they were like, "Hey, this is really good work. We'd love for you to apply for this corporate job. That's all you do is you solve these problems and you look for efficiencies inside the company." So went and interviewed for the job. I bought a Six Sigma for Dummies book, read it on the plane. To quote, sharpen my skills. I landed the job, and so then that path of black belt, master black belt, took me from that company to another company. So I was just leveraging that certification. Then I ended up I was deployed for a year, so I got called up and deployed. And then while I was deployed, I was just looking for jobs. I wasn't super excited about the one I was with, so I was looking to move. And I found this government job that was basically looking for Six Sigma black belts to do the same thing I was already doing in corporate America, but do it for the federal government. They were looking to save money, drive efficiency, all those things. So I ended up taking that job and moving to DC. If we fast forward, then I started my business and it didn't work out, but I ended up going to moving to Florida, and I met these mentors who taught me everything there was to know about, well, taught me a ton about running a small business. And my journey from 9-to-5er to entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, didn't really start until I met those guys, because they showed me how to really stack money, save money, invest money. And then they taught me how to, evaluate a business, do an acquisition, what to look for, what to watch out for. So it was within that 10 years, really, where I started saving money, because in that 2 years I was running my own business, I burned through all my savings, man. It was gone. It was like hired too fast. Yeah, every mistake.
All your Iraq money, all your military pay,
all that GS-15 money spent. Yeah. So when I moved down to Florida, man, I was at bottom. You know what I mean? I had to start over. Get back into the workforce, all those things. But so for that 10 to 12 years with those guys, with those mentors, they really taught me how to save money, grow money. Because I didn't learn about investing until I met with them, and they really started showing me the power of that money at the end of the month and what to do with it. Because before it was sitting in a savings account, and now it's sitting in my brokerage account. You know what I'm saying? So it took me all that time until I met these two men who finally told me, like, forget about this savings account. You need to put this money in a brokerage account and start stacking this stuff and let compound interest work for you, and all the things that you talk about on this channel. And it really clicked for me when they kind of showed me the way of, like, this is how you build wealth, and this is how you manage risk, and this is how you acquire businesses, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my journey. It really didn't get kickstarted, despite all the other successes that I had as a 9-to-5er. It didn't really get kickstarted until I, tried entrepreneurship. I, didn't really know what I was doing. Jumped out there 2 years. I burned through my savings, and then I landed in Orlando in this situation with these two guys, and they taught me, how to win. So, yeah. So that's my journey.
Nice. It's interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs, they quote unquote fail the first or second time. A lot of athletes, same thing. Kobe, he had all those air balls and everything. Jordan, I think, couldn't get past the Pistons. Magic, they called him Tragic because he kept losing to, I believe it was Larry Bird. This is all before my time, before Larry Bird.
He lost to Larry Bird, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs, they quote unquote fail the first or second time, and then, like you said, they succeed. I do have this question though for you. You said you found mentors.
Yeah.
I won't really go into the why, but I very rarely have been able to find quote unquote mentors to mentor me along my journey. And this is in corporate America and as an entrepreneur. How did you find mentors, Alan? How would you advise my subscribers to find mentors?
In both cases, it was through work. The one that taught me about mentorship when I was at the Pentagon, and the two they're here in Orlando, and it was never really. We never really had an official conversation. It was more about me showing interest and me being open to what they had to say. I think around us there are people that we recognize as, man, they really got something going on, or they got this. It seems like they really got this figured out. Like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Above and beyond, or what are they doing at work, or what are they doing to set themselves up in this situation? So in both cases, it was literally me going to lunch with them. It was me asking them questions about, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or what are your thoughts on XYZ? For the mentors here in Orlando, it was literally lunch. I work for them obviously, but it was like, I wanted to learn as much as I could about the business. If it was in my job description, sometimes, I started out asking about things that were outside of my job description, like what do they do? What are your thoughts on the marketing strategy, or what are your thoughts on sales strategy, or what's the biggest issue the business is facing right now? That I can help with, things like that. And I think they saw investing in me meant less work for them. Right. But if they were reading a book, or they were talking about a book, I was reading that book too. It was going on my book list. I had a little list I would keep. If they would mention a book, similar to what you did earlier, we talking about Can't Hurt Me. Someone mentions the book, or they would mention a book, I write it down, and I'd listen to it, because I'm a big Audible guy. And then I at the next lunch, or I'd hit them up. I'm like, hey, I'm reading XYZ. I'm reading Total Money Makeover. I'm reading Millionaire Next Door. I'm reading this.
Great books.
Yeah. What do you think about this, that, and the other thing? And they I think saw an opportunity in me and invested in me. And so I think there's mentors out there. We just have to those of us looking for mentees have to take it upon ourselves to invite ourselves to lunch, or ask them questions, or, hey, I'm working on this thing, I'd love to get your thoughts on it, things like that, to open up the door for them to be mentors. I think a lot of times mentors don't know that people are looking for advice or to be mentored, right? It's not like it's not like these two guys had a sign on their door saying, hey, come knock on the door. We were looking for people to, mentor.
Right.
So I think it's both. I think it's twofold. I think it's one, that those of us who are looking for mentors, we got to go knock on some doors and say, and show interest in what they're doing and bring some value to them. Because, they're busy people and all those types of things. And then I think also for us mentors types, or us who have the experience, we gotta be more open to those opportunities, because we're all busy. But yeah, I think that's, if I had to give any advice, I would say, if you are looking for a mentor, the smart people around you, show interest in what they're doing, go knock on their door, see if you can't bring those folks some sort of value. Be my suggestion on how to go about it.
Did your mentors always, a question I always ask people, when they ask me this question, did your mentors always look like you?
No, the one in Pentagon, he was black. He was an older gentleman. He's probably 20 years older than me. The two in Orlando, two white guys.
Nice.
White guys. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I know an issue a lot of people come across, particularly minorities, is that the gentlemen who they want to mentor them view them as threats, so they refuse to. So in that case, they have to kind of go above and beyond to find one. And you made a good point, though. Generally speaking, this obviously is a person that is emotionally has a lot of emotional intelligence and legitimately does not care what you look like. Generally speaking, I can say since I'm in a senior management position in my company, I'm running a $55 million project right now. Generally speaking, if a person walks up to me and says, "Chris, I want to make your life easier by doing something that you do every day. Can you teach me how to do it?"
Yeah.
Generally speaking, if a person approaches me like that, I don't care whether you black, green, blue, purple. I don't care whatever. I'm going to help you do it. I'm going to go out of my way to teach you, make sure you do it so well that you don't make me look bad after I teach you how to do it. So to anybody that's listening, I can honestly say this is going to become a guy who I was always viewed as a threat. So I had issues finding mentors. I'll just keep it PC. But I can honestly say this: the people that have walked up to me and said, "Yeah, I want to make your life easier can you show me how you do this?" I was always very open to teach that person because A, they took a workload off of my workload, but B, I can literally feel that hunger. And the person approaches like that, generally speaking, unless they're complete just douche, they're gonna basically that person's gonna help you. And that's what I've noticed anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Let's also continue in the fitness world. Obviously, CrossFit is the fitness industry and everything. So full disclosure, I've done mixed martial arts for over 20 years. I've boxed, I've kickboxed, I've gotten offers to do some of those sports professionally. I've fought in cages and rings, and from Amsterdam to Singapore to Los Angeles, Chicago, literally all over the world. And a lot of the buddies that I started doing the sport with over 20 years ago, they started their own gyms, and it's kind of sad because 90% of those guys, their gyms failed. Which is one reason why I thank God, thank you Jesus, thank my father for saying you better get a good education, because these guys put 100% of their life into fighting, into boxing, kickboxing, into mixed martial arts. And sadly, their gyms, which is what the natural continuation of fighting is to start your own gym, 90% of them failed. Which is really sad, I would say. So what makes your business model, because you're in the fitness world, what makes your business model successful, I would say, versus I would say a person whose business fails in the fitness world? Alan?
That's a great question. When my wife and I talk about successful business in general, it's really we really are running a service business, not a fitness business. So we look at it as anytime somebody walks in our doors, they need to have the best hour and a half, 2 hours of their day when they come in. And, my personal opinion is generally speaking, not enough business to do that. Fitness or gyms especially don't do that. Like the number of people who come to us just because they went someplace else, but they had a terrible experience. Like they walk in the door, no one greets them. No one shows them around when they get there. They're stuck in a corner and no one, they have a terrible experience. Like, they can go to any restaurant, any hotel, any gym, and it's essentially the same business, but some places treat you like you're king of the world. Some people treat you like you're valuable to them, right? And some people could care less that you walked into the door. Like, I could as soon just had stayed home. Yep. And so for us, we look at it, we run a service business that happens to provide fitness. And I think that is the biggest difference between businesses that succeed and businesses that fail. Every person, every customer who comes in there needs to be treated as if they are special and unique, and that you want them in your establishment and that you want them to come back. And there's been plenty of times, I'm sure you experienced this, I'm sure you folks listening have experienced this, where they've gone someplace, they've been treated like they nothing, trash, or work like that. And unfortunately, I think in the fitness industry, a lot of people just think it's just about the fitness, and people can get fitness in a lot of places. If you provide that service component, you'll stand out and you'll win. So yeah, that's it's funny because my wife and I were talking about the other day how important service is to any successful business, but especially ours.
Yeah, the first gym I ever walked into, the guy who ran it, he came from a corporate background, And he ran that gym to the point where you box, so you know where I'm coming from with this. A lot of boxing gyms, kickboxing gyms, it's the same thing. It's ran by meatheads, and they make you feel like they're doing you a service. I train such and such world champions. I have a guy fighting championship card next Friday night. Why should I waste my time with you? And when you talk to once again, this comes from people who fought professionally and things like that. So even on that level, guys want to be treated, and women as well, they want to be treated like, no, I'm important when I walk into the gym. So I'm not surprised at all that you say that making your clients feel like basically they're important matters, particularly in the fitness industry. It's kind of sad that you have to say that, but yeah, it makes perfect sense. Definitely.
For sure. Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, Alan, what's a typical day like for you? I mean, I always love asking this question because I know the ones that get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're working to 10 o'clock at night. I know the ones that get up at 9 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 or 3 emails, and then go back to sleep at 10 o'clock. So what's a typical day like for you as an entrepreneur, bro?
Well, it's funny. It's definitely evolving, but like I'll get up at 7:30. I'll get a workout in or run. I'm in front of my computer. I'm working on a research project. I'm researching some stuff right now, doing some market research right now. I had an opportunity to buy a business, came across my email. So checking that out.
Nice.
So that's the day. I mean, the morning, lunch, and then afternoon is very similar. Working on the business, working on the, we are looking at running some events later this year. So looking at opportunities to run an event, how we're going to set that up. And then I'm in the gym again in the afternoon, probably 4 to 5:30. And that's a wrap. It's quite different than my 9 to 5 life when I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I had to get everything done before I had to be at the office by, that hard deadline, 9 a.m. So I'm getting way more sleep.
Jealous.
I'm getting way more sleep as an entrepreneur, and free to set my schedule. And it's a lot of fun, to be honest with you, to be 100% clear with you. It's a lot of fun.
For sure. I can literally see you. I can feel you smiling through the camera. So yeah, definitely. What are the 3 coolest things I would say about being I'm gonna say a highly successful entrepreneur, because we kind of talk offline about dollars and stuff like that. So what are the 3 coolest things about being a highly successful entrepreneur, Alan?
I would say the freedom to be able to set your schedule. That's probably been the best, the coolest part. I hadn't really understood how stressed I was, and how much that timeline that's dictated to you by that 9 to 5 job, how much it impacts your overall life and your health and all those types of things. So freedom is definitely been the coolest part. Let's see. Number 2, I would say there's different opportunities that come across your desk, and which ones you're going to focus on. So I'd say focus is something I hadn't really thought about or considered as being a cool part. But there are things that come across, the email that, I'm in the process right now of being able to say, no, I'm not interested in that, or I'm not going to work on that right now, or stay focused on the things that are most important to us financially. So finding your focus and being able to stay focused on the things that really drive a return for you. And I think the last one is, and this is true even as a 9 to 5er, you have to become new things in order to achieve new goals, right? You got to become a new version of yourself, or learn new skills, or that type of thing. And entrepreneur is something that you have to become, and I'm learning how to become an entrepreneur, and that means getting out of my comfort zone. My wife is she's the one that loves she's a salesperson, so she loves chit-chatting and talking people up and going to this event and that event. And I always was like, oh, I got to work. I'll let you do all that. But now it's that's my turn to get out of my comfort zone and grow and become an entrepreneur. That means that's starting to become clear to me what that means. Certain things I'm not great at, I got to become good at and great at, which is always exciting for me. So I'd say those are the things that I love about being an entrepreneur so far.
Got you. Nice. What do you say are the hardest things about being a highly successful entrepreneur? So what's the most challenging aspects about it?
Most challenging probably is saying no to perfectly good ideas and opportunities. I think I got about 4 or 5 businesses I want to start up right now in the back of my head. I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. But now's not the time, or I got to focus on, on the things that are most important. And I got to put those things on the back burner. So, and it's funny because, my mentors always mention it's not the things that you say yes to that matter most, it's things you say no to.
That's powerful.
Yeah, there's a ton of things that come up that you could potentially jump on or do, or this, that, and the other thing. And very easy to get distracted from your primary goals. So, that's been the most challenging thing, is learning what to say no to, for sure.
Nice. You said a mouthful with that. I do have one other. You got deployed to combat and everything. Are there any stories from that you kind of directly helped you as an entrepreneur, you would say?
It's funny. It wasn't when I was I would say the story that really is most meaningful to me is when I was a civilian working at the Pentagon. So as part of that job, I had to go back in and out of theater, in and out of Iraq, in and out of Kuwait, because at the time we were doing a drawdown and we were trying to figure out best way to save taxpayer money, believe it or not, on how we were doing that. And I remember I was at a base, and this is when I was, thinking about, quitting that job and going to do my own thing. But I remember I was sitting at a base, and a bunch of rockets got fired into the base, and my military training and my had taught me hey, when that happens, you got to do X, Y, Z. You got to jump, you got to grab your gear, you got to jump into the bunker, you got to do all these things, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember distinctly, because I was out there by myself and I was going through a bunch of stuff, and I just rolled over and went back to sleep, even though the rocket attack was happening. And I didn't get up out of bed. Next morning, turns out 3 guys got one coming out of the shower. And it just really opened my eyes to the fact that, life is short. You got to take advantage of it. You can't wait. You got to move when the opportunity presents itself. All these things that really, really sunk in that next morning for me. I think I quit that job a week later, 2 weeks later. So yeah, it wasn't even combat. I was civilian at the time. But I think that was the biggest lesson learned, that, man, life is short. And we got to take advantage of it while we're healthy and young, can continue to keep moving and do all those things. Definitely.
Yeah. Life is you put that's a story in a podcast of it in itself. Definitely.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're still here, Alan. Definitely.
Me too. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. What advice, because I want to go to some other subjects, but I'm liking the whole entrepreneurial vibe. What advice would you give someone that is thinking about starting a business? Alan, what advice would you give them?
Get started in some way, shape, form. So that assumes some things, right? So that assumes that you have set your vision for your life and you know what you want to accomplish while you're here, right? So that assumes that, and you have a good sense of this business is going to help me do that. Then I would say get started in some small way. Start a Facebook group, start a YouTube channel, start something that will allow you to start testing your ideas, testing your product, start getting in front of potential customers. A business is essentially, a transaction between, you and a customer. We're going to exchange we're going to do a value exchange. You don't know if it's going to work. You don't know how it's going to work until you actually start talking to people, meeting people, and doing it. So you don't need a ton. I mean, you don't need, the big building, or you don't need all these things. I mean, we live in a time where it's really simple to throw up a website, or throw up a Facebook group. Even you don't even need a website. Throw up a Facebook group and just get started. I would say that's the number one thing I would tell anybody who's even thinking about entrepreneurship. Don't worry about people stealing your ideas, and don't worry about people, making fun of you, and don't worry about, this, that, and the other thing. Just start would be my number one recommendation for folks.
Nice. I love it. Yep. All right, cool. Let's move on to a different transition and everything. You mentioned your lovely wife multiple times, and I actually, from as a guy who's been married, who's happily married, I have 2 young kids at home, been married for 4 years. It's always a blessing when I meet a brother that is happily married, because I mean, the whole manosphere, red pill community, all that kind of stuff. There unfortunately is a community that says never get married. I think that's crazy, but that's a question I'll ask later on. You are happily married, Alan, which is a beautiful thing. And what role, I would say, if any, did marrying the right woman have for success in your finances and for your success as an entrepreneur?
I don't even know how to explain it. She accelerated everything. Things go I mean, there's different takes on the type of woman you should marry and this, that, and thing. For me, I was looking for a partner, someone who, had a career, someone who was motivated, someone who had a similar vision for the future as me. And I mean, that's what my wife has. And I think the thing about marriage is so interesting. Like, when you get married, you're marrying her as she is that day, and she's marrying you as you are that day. But eventually you guys are going to grow together, and you got to make sure that you're growing towards the same place and same destination. And all she did was make my dreams come true faster.
That's beautiful. That's dope.
You know what I mean?
That's dope.
And she didn't have to do anything extra. She would just be herself. And I remember we sat down at the Cheesecake Factory one time. Cheesecake Factory. Sat down at Cheesecake Factory one time, and we just mapped out, like, this is what we want. This is what we want. This is what we want retirement to be. This is where we want to be. This is how many trips a year we want to take. This is the kind of house we want to live in. We might want to have a second home in this place, and this, that, and the other thing. And we built this dream together, and we revisit that map. We revisit that dream every year as part of New Year's, and it's like, man, it's fun. It's fun. It's exciting, and it's easy. It really is easy with the right person.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll say this to all the men that are listening. Yeah, when I first met my wife, this is even before we got married, she's like, you're always on social media arguing with people. You're always on social media giving people advice about finance. You're always on social media giving people advice about how to work out or fitness. Why don't you start a business? Why don't you start a YouTube channel? Why are you wasting all your time? Why don't you monetize that? And literally, if it was not for my wife telling me that, I don't know if Financipation would exist today. And it's funny you say, yeah, you and your wife are partnering, because I'm very good in front of the camera. I can literally talk your pants off. That's one of the gifts God has given me. My wife is extremely good on the tech and the IT side. So it's kind of been a marriage in more ways than one, particularly made in heaven and everything. Yeah. And you're right. It got easier, everything. I don't know if it's because I was no longer in the happy hours or the bars or the clubs or whatever, but everything in life literally got easier when I met my wife. And I'm glad that you say that, because like I said, there is an agenda right now kind of going through, I know, our community saying don't get married. I think it's crazy. So yeah.
I look, I mean, she'll get on me. She'll be like, you got to stay off that stuff, because I get so fired up.
Yeah.
I just don't, it just doesn't make any sense. The math doesn't make sense.
No, the math ain't math.
Math ain't math.
Math
you
ain't
find
math.
somebody to walk with who can help you get there faster, easier. Whew, so much easier. But
yeah, and then once again, this is a finance channel. I tell my boys this all the time, the ones that are still bar hopping and clubbing and doing that thing in Miami. I'm like, bruh, if you get married, literally just off gate, just money wise, stop getting on the whole look at it from a positive perspective. Married people make 35 times average 35 times more wealth than single people. And children that grow up in two-parent households, they are 4 times more likely to move from poverty to the middle class. So it's like, to me, wealth and marriage, they go hand in hand. It's literally the financial cheat code. And what do you say about it? Let's talk a little bit about that whole concept of the manosphere and everything. What are your thoughts, I would say, on the men that do say we should never get married, smash and dash, never love these, you know what? I mean, never settle down. What is your take on that, Alan? Because I think that's a toxic narrative that's gonna leave a lot of men literally broken and homeless one day.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. Someone asked me one time, why do I like books versus podcasts or whatever? And my response to him was because books tend to be better researched.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, people are speaking from their own personal experiences. And all I hear when people say that is trauma. Like they went through something in their life that is now informing their decision. And now they are communicating that to the world. And, you know, good or bad, there's been a lot of men hurt. There have a lot of men been through some things. And now they believe that should be the way it is for all of us all the time, which is again typically, you know, I won't say all the time, typically not well researched or not quoting you know, peer-reviewed studies. It's their opinion about this topic because of what they've been through. And now, you know, and their experience is not my experience.
Exactly.
May not be your experience, because I just there are a ton of women that will make great wives, but I think it comes down to, you know, who are you as a man and where are you trying to go, and can you find somebody that can, you know, help you get there? And I mean, and full transparency, I met my wife in Orlando. This is after. You know, previous marriage, I got a divorce, you know, and I had to do some self-reflecting on, like, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was trying to be. I didn't know where I was trying to go. And so I owed that to my wife to figure that stuff out. So to answer your question, I just think it comes from a place of trauma. I think men have been hurt, and now they believe that's the way it should, you know, their beliefs should be what everyone believes. But
yeah,
for me.
I agree with you on that one. A lot of guys I see talking in that sphere, like you said, it's a bunch of trauma, it's a bunch of drama, and like you said, it's horribly researched material. It's not from peer-cited reviews, it's not from scientific studies, and even the statistics that they do give that are realistic. I'm like, bro, any world that you walk into where you're constantly focusing on the negative and what could happen, that's what's going to happen. If you go into any situation saying, okay, I'm going to drop the ball or I'm going to fumble, guess what's going to happen? I was like, so if you constantly are focusing on the negative and constantly are absorbing that kind of stuff, every woman that you meet, she's gonna cheat on you. She's gonna leave you. She's gonna take 60% of your money. She's gonna basically take your business. I was like, so don't focus on that kind of stuff. And I would also say, as guys, at the end of the day, to some extent, we kind of do have the cheat code in this respect. We can get educated. We can take care of our bodies. At the end of the day, we never kind of age out of the dating game. So I always tell guys that become the best version of yourself. And I've literally seen people 25 or 30 years younger than them approaching people for relationships. So to me, as a guy, I tell my boys that are still single that are actually trying to find wives, I'm like, bro, get off of that manosphere stuff, man. I mean, it has its place. Like, I'm not gonna say don't absorb any of it, but get off of it, because if not, you're gonna focus on the negative. You should be doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, man, you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
What advice? Yeah, you're slightly older than me, I think, Alan. What advice would you give brothers who are trying to find a wife, though? What are some of the qualities you think they should look for before we go to the next topic?
Again, I think you got to be crystal clear on, like, who you are and what you're about. I think that's the biggest challenge in my life, anyway. Was I wasn't always clear on what that was. So if you have a vision for your own life, if you know what you want to accomplish with the things that you're trying to do while you're here, it's infinitely more easier to find somebody to walk with you. If you don't know where you're going, how you gonna find somebody that's gonna be able to walk? Like, I don't know where I'm going. You want to come along? So like,
it's the blind leading the blindest.
Exactly. So I think for any men who are looking for a relationship, a loving and a lasting relationship, you got to know where you're going first. And if you don't have that, man, now it's just, I don't know, the odds are against you that you're going to find somebody that's at the right place, at the right time, with the right mentality, with the right things going on to walk with you. So you got to figure your own stuff out first. And then once you got that figured out, you don't have to have it all. Like, you don't have to have the money stacked in the bank, but you at least have to know that's what you want, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're working on the dream, but you got to have the dream. Otherwise, like, what are you offering her? Like, I don't know. So I think that's where I'm at. Number one thing is you got to figure out yourself and where you're trying to get to, and then you can go and find somebody. Then you can try and find somebody that'll walk with you.
Definitely. It's funny you say that. When I first started talking to my wife, because I met her, and then a couple years later, we actually started talking years later after that. I handed her a book, and I was like, all right, cool, read this, and let me know what you think about it. She read it that same night. And what was kind of dope was because at the same time, there was other people kind of in my sphere, if you want to call it that. And I was like, okay, read this book. And they would never want to read the books. So when I started talking to my wife, I was like, read this book. What do you think about it? The next day, she finished it and was just like, yeah, I have questions about this, this, and this. I was like, okay, all right. She sees the vision, and I don't even really need to explain it to her. I immediately realized, okay, Reba was basically on a different tip. She kind of was seeing the world the way I kind of saw it. And you're right. And because I had a vision, she had no issues being led. And it was a beautiful thing. It truly was. So, yeah, great points with that as well. I love how you mentioned that as far as about finding a wife, being basically knowing what you want, and then kind of having a vision of where you want to go. It's going to, and the person that you're looking for, they're going to reveal themselves to you. I like that. I like that. Good. Yeah. Yep. Let's keep moving. Go to a slightly darker topic. Florida right now is in the news for a lot of things that aren't necessarily the best in regards to, let's say, minorities and people of color. As racism in the military, racism as an entrepreneur, racism in corporate, have you ever experienced any of that? And if so, how would you advise people to get around it? If you have experienced any of it.
I mean, I've definitely experienced, as a Black man in America, I've experienced racism. I haven't felt it, in a business setting. I will tell you, there was one day I was headed to, this is your comment about Florida. I was driving to work one day, the Saturday, trying to put in some hours, working on the best version of myself. And I'm probably half a mile from my apartment, coming over the bridge. And there's a Klan rally on the bridge. And they're hanging they're hanging posters off the side. There's probably 20 or 30 of them up there. Police are out there to make sure that, I don't know, nothing crazy happens.
Yeah.
We're recruiting people to come and join their ranks. And, they all got masks on or whatever, but those folks work in, banks and jobs and
probably politicians.
Yeah, doctors and all kind of stuff. All of it. And I remember, calling my wife and say, hey, this, you won't believe this. This is right down the street from us. And, I thought about how long I was going to be upset about it. You know what I mean? Like, there is racism in this country, as I am sure the sun will come up tomorrow. There will be racists in this country, that racist people doing racist things inside of institutions. The question is, how long do I want to spend my time, my energy, being upset about it? The best thing that's happened in the last 5 years is that people have been more honest about it, been more open about it. So I know not to mess with you. I know not to deal with you. I know not to go to your establishment. I know I'm not welcome here. I'm not supporting your business over here. And so that's how I have decided to deal with racism. I don't have the time, the energy. I have not been blessed with the ability to change racist people's heart. And I don't spend time arguing with people on Facebook or getting into this, that, and the other thing on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. Now, I don't spend my time or energy locked up in that situation, because all it does is make me angry and frustrated. That's all it does, is make me angry and frustrated, and distracts me from what I'm trying to do. So the sun's going to come up tomorrow and there will be racists in America. The question is how much energy and time they're going to get from me. And the answer is not very much, if at all, if any.
I like that.
You know what I mean? So go ahead. Let me know how you feel. Self-identify. Go ahead. Tell me what you think. This, that, and the other thing. And I'm going to keep it moving. I don't have time for you.
Nice. Yeah, I mentioned earlier in this podcast that I worked in Orlando for a little bit, and you're going to remember the story. So the first time I got to Orlando, I met with my team, said, okay, you're going to be designing this building, these kind of museums and kind of stuff like that. So that night I went out downtown Orlando, and it was the same night that the George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin verdict was there. And I saw people literally running around high-fiving each other. Yeah, we got off scot-free.
Yeah.
I think that's the maddest. I'll keep this PC. That's probably the maddest I've ever been in my life. And what was crazy was some of the same guys I saw running around clapping and cheering, because you've been to downtown Orlando, you know kind of the way that it's like open bars, stuff like that. Some of the same people that I saw clapping and cheering, I saw them at work when I actually started for this particular company. Yep. And like you said, it's kind of crazy because unfortunately, when these people take their sheets off, they are engineers, they're lawyers, they're politicians, they're doctors. But like you said, you can sit there and let the thing bother you to the point where you no longer become the best version of yourself, or you can say, okay, like you said, I'm not blessed. I can't change another idiot's heart as far as them being racist. It's going to be racist tomorrow, but how much energy am I going to put into it? And I decided to basically put all my energy into trying to become the best engineer and the best entrepreneur that I could become. And that's the way you said that, Alan. Yeah, I love that, man. That's another message of it in itself.
Yeah, no, man, and you know. I don't want to get into politics and all that, but there's plenty of that here in Florida. And, you just decide on who you're going to rock with. And, I don't spend my time with people that don't align with my, with my beliefs in general. But, those folks, those racists, I mean, just keep it moving, man.
Yeah.
Let me know who you are. And then
and I do agree with you on that. I like the fact that now they've gotten comfortable enough to take their sheets off, because I know they let you know exactly who they are, what they stand for. So that's perfect. That means I'm never going to give you one dime of my money. I'm never going to give you 1 second of my time. Make sure your establishments don't get 1 penny of my money, and we'll just keep it moving.
100%.
And I'll vote. So yeah, that's how I do it.
I'm with you. Right.
Let's keep it moving. Once again, this is a financial channel. So what are 3 pieces of financial advice, Alan, you would give my listeners, okay?
3 pieces of advice. And I know you've talked about this, but budget would be number 1. The difference between me at 29, 30, making that money with the GS job, it was just coming in and going out. I didn't know what it was doing. And then it was sitting in a savings account. When you really sit down and think about it, when you start budgeting and you end up with money at the end of the month, it's so much fun to sit there and figure out, what am I going to do with this? So I would say number 1, budget. I think the next piece of financial advice I would tell people is get out of debt. Stop putting yourself in debt. Like debt can be, I heard people talk about debt being a tool, but it is so destructive to your wealth building every time you buy something you can't afford. And that's what debt really is, right? You're buying something you can't afford. So I would quit messing with debt, start paying for cash, get the 5-year-old car, get last year's shoes, like whatever it takes, but quit going into debt. And then the third one I would say was figure out what you want to do with that money at the end of the month. Once you start doing, you do those first 2 things. There's a lot of ways to build wealth, and it really just comes down to like your personal choice and your risk tolerance and what you're into. It makes no sense for me as a person who, I'm not very handy. I can't, fix the plumbing in the house. I'm not going to be able to, fix your drywall, whatever. But buying businesses makes sense to me. Maybe buying rental properties and keeping those up to date makes sense to you. But so you got that money at the end of the month. Figure out what you want to do with it. Have a plan for it. I know we don't talk about it. I don't talk about it a lot, but it's a lot of fun to sit there and go, what am I going to do with this extra $1,000, $2,000
I agree.
at the end of the month, and it stops being about I'm gonna go buy this thing, or clothes or whatever. To we're gonna invest here, we're gonna invest there, we're stacking this up to buy a house. It's a whole different life, and if your budget quit going in debt, you suddenly end up with some money at the end of the month. You get to decide what to do with.
Nice.
Other than paying off bills.
Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I like how you said, yeah, my wife and I, we actually still have financial date night. So let's say I get like a $10,000 bonus, or let's say I sign a new client and get like a $5,000 commission off of a financial one-on-one consultation. All right, babe, we got 5 stacks. So what do you want to do with this? We're kind of go back and forth about, okay, should we invest it? Should we do this? Should we put it toward A, B, or C? And like you said, those are pretty cool, sexy, and fun conversations to kind of have. And like I said, don't just put it in the bank. That's like the first thing with this 0.01% Bank of America APY you can do. It's cool, like you said, to select the kind of lifetime partner where you can actually have those conversations with, and you can actually have those conversations and say, okay, babe, what are we going to do with this extra money that we got? And then 2, is also cool to kind of have the financial knowledge to say, okay, should we buy it in the business? Should we invest it? Should we invest in the stock market? Should we go to gold? Like, what should we do with this? That's kind of cool. I would just say, obviously, at running a financial channel, I have an MBA in finance, so I taught finance for over 20 years and everything. The first thing I'll tell somebody asks me what kind of financial advice I would give them: get educated. And what I mean by that is that you can go the U.S. military route, you can go the trade school route, because I am not the kind of guy who craps on my blue collar dudes. If you want to be an electrician, plumber, carpenter, those are 6 and 7 figure careers if you really want to work. Or you can go the engineering, finance route like I went. But get an education, whether it's blue collar, white collar, you join the military, get an education, because at the end of the day, an education raises your floor. It raises your floor and it raises your ceiling. So get a good education. That's the first thing I tell you. Secondly, I'm a firm believer in pushing the 3 pillars. What I mean by that is that max out your 401k in 2024, that's $23,000. Max out your Roth IRA, that's $7,000 in 2024. And max out your HSA, which is $8,300 if you're married. Or $4,150 if you're if you're single and filing separately. So basically, invest, people. The stock market, you said this earlier, it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It makes you money if you invest it correctly. If you book a one-on-one session, I can teach you how to invest that money correctly, everybody. Einstein said it best. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. There are lots of millionaires literally every day that become millions just because they invested $100 every paycheck for 30 or 40 years. Simple as that. And I'll also say this, everybody, when I went to grad school, I paid $120,000 for my MBA. The stuff that I learned in grad school, you can literally find for free on channels like Financipation. The same things that I learned and I spent all that money for, I teach it to my listeners on this channel. So get financially literate. There's no excuse nowadays with audibles. I'm a big audible guy, just like you are, Alan. There's no excuse today where a person is financially incompetent. There's no excuse with the way YouTube is and all the graphics and everything that it shows as far as how to invest your money. There's no excuse to be financially illiterate. So get financially literate. And if you're not financially literate, watch my podcast. I'll literally walk you through all that kind of stuff. So that's the way I would ask that question. So yeah.
Great. Oh man.
3 cool stories about being an entrepreneur, just off the cuff. Yeah. Really cool about being an entrepreneur. That's positive.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, what are 3 really cool stories you can tell us, or your coolest story you can tell us about? Mama, I made it. I'm an entrepreneur now. What's a story like that, Alan?
I would say the coolest story had to be. I mean, just recently where I turned in my notice. We have this. I had this. It wasn't even anything fancy. I had this little tracker on my phone. I'll just keep a list on my net worth as we paid off bills, and as we kept, every month we're sending stuff to the brokerage account. That money at the end of the month, not all of it, obviously, because the wife likes to travel, but we just sending money to the broker, and I'm just checking on my brokerage account. I'm just keeping a little tab, and it's building, and then this October, November last year, my wife decided she was going to step away from her 9-to-5 job. And, I had thought I was going to work for a while longer. And then we crunched the numbers and came back and said, hey, I think we can make this happen sooner than we had thought. The gym is doing really well. So let's take a look at that. And then we had scheduled a cruise. We had bought a cruise for her 40th birthday. So we're on this cruise, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make the decision. We're gonna make the decision on the cruise when I'm gonna turn in my notice. And I had said to myself, like, am I really gonna do this? Because I had done it before, 12 years ago, didn't work out. And we're on that cruise, man. I'm on the back of the boat, and we're pulling into the Bahamas, and it's, gorgeous out.
Yep.
Drinking my coffee. I'm like, man, I think I made it.
Mama made it. Yep.
Yeah, like we had even upgraded. We had even upgraded the status on the cruise. So we had this big balcony. Yep. Man, I'm sitting out there. I'm just like, I think I've done it. I think I'll check my net worth thing, and I think we can. We did it. And then so we got back from that trip, walked into the office on Monday, and here you go. Here's my notice. It's a wrap for me. Time for me to go do my own thing. So that was the mama I made it moment for sure. On the back of that boat, making a decision, and then that next Monday, man, there you go. There it is. It's a wrap for me. I'm done.
Dope. I love hearing. I love hearing stories like that, Alan. Man, that is dope. Like I said, Miami was home for me and everything for a lot of years, and I've definitely done a lot of cruises and things like that. So when you said the Bahamas, I probably know the exact port you're talking about. Yeah. And that had to feel phenomenal. Oh, so quick, another thing as well. I want to be respectful of your time, but two more questions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, readers are absolutely leaders, and I truly believe that people who read, they're the ones who are basically going to dominate this country, and they're the ones to basically take our country to the next level. And the average American reads 1 book per year. The average millionaire reads 50 books per year. So let that sink in, everybody. Alan, what are 3 books you would advise my subscribers, my listeners, to read?
I would definitely say Millionaire Next Door.
Absolutely.
I think I talked about it earlier. I mean, I think it will shift your perspective on what an actual millionaire drives, wears, how they live. I know my perspective had to be shifted on that. So Millionaire Next Door. Total Money Makeover, I would say, is a good one. I'm actually running a book club on that at the gym. But you don't have to agree with all of, Dave Ramsey's, politics or positions or all that. I would just say it's a great system. I mean, books are all about, people are usually selling their system. It's a great system to get you out of debt, get you working that budget. I mean, I know it did for me. So for me, that was the book that sort of changed everything, applying that system. And then I would say, what's his name? Ramit Sethi. I will teach you to be rich.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal book.
Yeah. I think it's, I think you touched on it. As you increase your financial literacy, you can start taking pieces and parts from people. So I think Dave Ramsey's a really good foundation to get started, especially if you're in debt and, you got more month than money. But I appreciated Ramit's perspective, on $5 lattes or coffees, and just, you got to live your life.
Exactly. I agree.
In pursuit of your dreams. So I'd say those 3 were really, really good for me to read. Or listen to.
Yeah, what would be a good book? And I agree. At the end of the day, Americans, we drive on average, I think, an hour and a half every day in traffic. People, do you realize if you get an Audible, membership and everything, you literally will be reading about 40 to 50 books a year just driving to and from home every day at work. So I'm a big fan of Audible books. And if it's a really, really good Audible book, buy the hardcover and then start highlighting that thing. So I like how you mentioned that. What would be a good book to read about buying and flipping businesses? Because even having an MBA, that's not a subject we really touched about a lot in school, and I don't see like a lot of good content about how to identify a good business to buy, how to flip it, and how to essentially or to buy into it and keep it, kind of like how you do in CrossFit and MouseTrap. What's a good book you would advise to read about buying business and everything?
I think the name of it, look, I'm checking my Audible right now. I think it was called Buy Then Build.
Nice.
Buy Then Build. Yeah, I think I think that's a good one. I mean, I think it really opened my eyes. We were going through, I learned about acquisition, obviously, with the company I was working for, but takes a ton of risk out of starting your own company. You already have an established customer base. I saw a thing the other day that talked about, I forget what it was, YouTube or Instagram. It was this young woman was talking about all the baby boomers that are, retiring, and they don't have someone to lead the business to. And so there's a huge opportunity right now of people who are getting out of businesses and they're looking to sell their business. So reduces your risk quite a bit from a startup perspective, but again, you got to have the access to the capital in order to make it happen. But yeah, Buy Then Build was a good one. It's in my Audible library.
Who wrote it? Who wrote it?
Who wrote this?
I'm gonna check it. I'm definitely I'm adding it to my list. I'm gonna read it this week.
Walker, first name Walker, last name Deibel.
Diebel. Got you. If I were to answer this question, books to read. I'll say first off, you're a military guy, so I'm gonna start with the military book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. That is a phenomenal book. If you want to know what it's like to take complete ownership of a project, I don't care whether it's engineering, construction, finance, operations, or whatever. He touches on all of it about how basically you have to lead from the front. You have to basically make no excuses. And it's a phenomenal read. And another thing that's kind of dope about it is, as Jocko, as I stated earlier, was about a 22-year Navy SEAL. He actually talks about like losing comrades in arms, people dying under his command, almost getting people killed because he wasn't properly prepared for a friendly fire situation. So that book applies. I find it applies to everything from finance to engineering to your relationship with your girl to everything. So Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It is a phenomenal book from a career military guy. Another phenomenal book we kind of talked about a little bit as far as race. Read the book Black Faces and White Places by Dr. Randall Pinkett. That gentleman kind of talks about what it's like to be the only. And I love America. I love America. This is, in my opinion, the greatest country in the world to build wealth. But let's face it, there are certain people who don't like me and never will, and that's okay. That's their stupidity. I'm not gonna let their ignorance stop me. But the good thing about that book is that it kind of teaches you how do you dominate a space where no one looks like you, where you're the only. And I find that book applies extremely well as well to my female listeners, because let's face it, you guys will experience some sexism as well. And the last book I want to talk about is The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Jack Bogle nails it on how to become an investor. And the thing that I like about that book is that if you do want to start from a basis of, okay, I want to cut my spending. I want to go the Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey route where no debt. I want to basically spend a lot less money, not spend any money. I want to basically save. That's all well and good. But think of it like this. Nobody ever saved their way, people, to $1 billion. But a lot of people have invested their way to billions of dollars. So as a result, you have to know how to invest your money. And the Little Book of Common Sense Investing, that's one of those kind of books from Jack Bogle that I think it should be mandatory reading in every public school in America, because he systematically breaks down, okay, this is how you basically invest your money. And it's funny because when he wrote that book, he got called an idiot by the Warren Buffetts of the world and by a lot of his financial peers. And now that he's dead, they're all saying, yo, this guy was onto something 20 years before all of us were. So it's a phenomenal read. All right, Alan. Yeah, we are to a close, bro. So I have one last question for you before, because I want to be respectful of your time. So you're a husband, you're a son, you're an entrepreneur, and you are a great example to boys and girls and black men everywhere. When God calls you home, bro, and your time on earth is past, what do you want your legacy on earth to be?
I would love to, for the folks still here, to say, man, he helped as many people as he could before he was gone. I think you spend a lot of time working on your personal success, and that's good. But at some point you got to start giving back, helping those that are not the same situation as you, people looking to come up. And I did it when I was a 9-to-5er. I made it my job to take any person who wanted to grow and learn and change their circumstance in life. And I think that's, the thing I'm going to do as an entrepreneur as well. That's what I'm focused on. So, for me, that's what's most important.
Gotcha. So you want to help people, you want to give back.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, between you and me, that was one reason why I started my podcast, Financipation, because I was like, it makes no sense for this knowledge to be this easy for one, and to be this available, but no one knows about it. Yeah. I mean, I never heard about an index fund or a REIT or a mutual fund. Or a brokerage account, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard. I never heard about any of that stuff from K through 12 or through college. And it's sad to say that because, I'm a mechanical engineer, so it ain't like I got some kooky or ray education, but they don't teach finance in school. So I was like, all right, cool. YouTube is a platform that everybody is ubiquitous around the world. So let me teach people essentially how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money, how to build generational wealth. And you can literally teach it to the masses. And it's been kind of cool having people walking to me, hey, you that dude that runs that YouTube channel. That's a cool feeling. And like you said, it's all about helping people. Yeah.
Good.
With that, Alan, I really want to say thank you, man. Like I said, I was reading your profile and everything when you reached out to me, and I wanted to do this podcast because we need to start seeing more guys like you and more guys like me on social media. I'm cool talking about hip hop and sports and basketball and football and all that kind of stuff. That's in rap. It is what it is. It's entertainment. There's an aspect to that in our society, and always will be. But at the end of the day, we are as a group of people, and we are as a country, as Americans, a lot more than just entertainment and sports. So I love talking to podcasts. I love doing podcasts and talking to entrepreneurs because it completely changes the narrative about what we talk about as men on camera, as well as what we talk about in regards to what's going to help our community, help our country. So thank you, Alan, once again for coming to the podcast, man. I appreciate it.
A pleasure. It was fun.
Yeah, this channel, everybody, is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth. And it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. You can book a one-on-one session with me at any point. I'm not giving you financial advice. You got to do your own research as you go into the different things that work for you and for your system. Please check me out on my website at www.therealfinancipation.com. You can check me out on Instagram as well at @thereal_financipation. My Spotify is Financipation, where I go into a lot more detail about like 401ks, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, and things of that nature. And my TikTok is Financipation as well. And check out my financial blog as well, Financipation. Additionally, also check out some of my digital e-products below as well. With that, Alan, I want to say thank you, brother. Next time I'm in Orlando, I will definitely be hitting you up. And man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And keep doing what you're doing with CrossFit and MouseTrap fitness and everything. And please keep doing flipping the businesses, because you are the representation that our people need to start seeing a lot more of. I want to make Black entrepreneurs that are men normal again. And that's what it was in my grandfather's generation, because he was the only guy I ever met in my life. In my family, I kind of said, Chris, you need to be an entrepreneur. You got that kind of mind. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, my pleasure.
Yep. Please like, comment, subscribe, everybody. It's your boy, Chris. I'm out. Peace.